Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the top 10 teams for the Open Great League. The Open Great League is going to be available for 2 weeks, and so you might want to play this league, and also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. Another thing is that I'm also now offering basically membership for the channel, been for like a while, but now you actually have the option to get early access to videos, so like if you want to see the videos a little bit earlier, a few hours to a day or whatever, then feel free to, be a member of the channel. You don't have to, of course. It's not going to be exclusive, but you're just going to get early access to videos. If that's something that you're interested in, then do that. Otherwise, let's move on to the meta analysis. Looking at the Great League meta, we're going to see here that it shifted a little bit, because it's something that happens with PvPoke quite often, where they just shift around a little bit about like weighting what Pokemon you actually encounter more often. And so we're going to see Gligar a little bit higher again, which was a little bit lower last time around. And we're also going to see something like this Skarmory drop from rank 1 to rank 7, which is still very, very solid. But again, like this, just like ranking purposes, like the Pokemon are still kind of playing the same. It just kind of tries to give you a little bit more of an accurate standing for how the meta is going to look right now. What you're also going to see is that Registeel is pretty high up, which I feel like is going to have a little bit more play coming up for the next 2 weeks for the Great League. Lickitung is going to be everywhere. Cresselia I find interesting. I'm most likely going to take a look at this Pokemon as well for the Great League. But there are some other Pokemon that also got a little bit up. Still, Vigoroth is one of the strongest one. I feel Clodsire is kind of underrated. Definitely try to take advantage of this Pokemon, very strong. Galarian Stunfisk, like, not really a lot of people play this Pokemon anymore, but it's really, really strong. Poliwrath, I still think it's going to be a very, very solid option for the upcoming week. Most likely the best fighting type Pokemon, most likely even better than the Medicham. But Pokemon like Jellicent is also going to be very strong. But one of the biggest, wins basically, which is still kind of underrated for the Great League itself, but not so much for the tournament meta, which you're going to see as well. It's going to be Charjabug. Here, this is going to be, I think, from the last regional, the meta ranking, or like what Pokemon really got used, and we see here. And number 1 is going to be the Lickitung, not really surprising. But number 2 is already going to be the Charjabug, which is going to be a Pokemon that you most likely not expect as much at least. So, going to be an interesting one here, but that's going to be it for the meta. Let's take a look at the teams. Okay, from the meta analysis now we can go to the first team of today, which is going to be a classic Skarmory line, or like even like Flyer line, which is still going to be very solid for the current meta. We're going to have this Skarmory in the lead. We're going to also usually go for something like the Pidgeot. Pidgeot kind of underrated in the current meta as well. In the lead, both of them going to be very great, especially Pidgeot as a lead is really cool, because if you win the lead and they have like a grass type in the back, like in the lead, you can just debuff whatever comes in, and with that kind of realign against whatever really wants to swap into you. But Skarmory is totally fine as well. Very solid Pokemon in the current meta, and as you can see here, together with the Sableye as well as the Swampert, this is going to look like a very solid lineup. You can also go for the Wishcast, which kind of got some more play as well now, especially in like recent regional tournaments as well. So definitely a very solid line, very classic line. Like this has been available, I think, since like season 1 or something in a similar way. So definitely something that I would recommend you to try out if you have the Pokemon for it. Moving on to the next team, team number 2. We're going to have a double dragon line here, which is something that I also see quite often. We're going to have here either the Lantern or the Wishcast in the lead. Lantern going to be a little bit more of a generalist, while Wishcast is going to allow you to hit up against those steel types a little bit easier, which might be even also better. Here we're going to take a look at the Lantern variant real quick, and as you can see here, you're going to maybe have some struggles against Cresselia. Doubt that you're going to see that many. A lot of people don't have a Cresselia for the Great League, but I'm mostly going to take a look at this Pokemon as well. And if you can take a look here as well and what you're going to lose against. You're going to lose against something like the Galarian Stunfisk, which is currently kind of rare, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit more common. The Clodsire, which is still okay for both of your Dragon type Pokemon in the back. You still have Surf on Lantern, and Wishcast would completely destroy it, so it's not the worst, and otherwise you're just going to basically completely destroy everything. So I feel like there's going to be a very cool one here. Altaria is a good option. You can also go for Dragonite if you feel like it. Shadow Dragonite preferred, Shadow Dragonair also kind of mandatory, I would say, even for the Safe Swap variant. Safe Swap Dragonair is actually really strong. Better than it looks here on paper, because like a 2-shot scenario for this thing is kind of insane. So let's move on to the next team. Team number 3. We're going to have a team here that's kind of based on what is currently very popular for like the regionals as well, which is going to be basically 3 Pokemon that are really uprising right now, which is going to be the Poliwrath, especially the Shadow variant is also kind of cool. Here we're going to have the normal Poliwrath, which is easier to obtain, but Shadow is totally fine for it. You're going to have the Charjabug as your safe swap, allowing you to have something for certain flying type Pokemon, and you're going to have the Registeel in the back, which is going to be fairly cool. One issue for this team, which I could see, is the Gligar. I don't know, like, what do you really want to do against it? You could go for just a standard water type in the lead, which would be also totally okay for you, by the way, to counter something like a Gligar. But I could see that Gligar going to be a little bit more common. Here, for example, you still win, I think, in the Zero Shields or whatever against Gligar with your Poliwrath, which is kind of nice, but could be a little bit of an issue. Could be kind of avoided with a different water type in the lead as well, but I feel like this is going to be definitely a very solid one there. Also, Gligar will not be able to destroy the entire team, but going to be a little bit of a tougher one to deal with. Clodsire, again, you barely really see this Pokemon. You could argue of going for something like a LilyNiRiain Stunfisk instead, also in the back here instead of the Registeel or the Bastion as well, which would work out super, super well. Team number 4, Cresselia. I kind of want to make a team around Cresselia, and we're going to have some decent options here, and it's a little bit funny here because, like, we have Skeledirge as a safe swap, which I feel like could work out pretty well. Lickitung is going to be a little bit safer, but I also feel like that there are a lot of Vigoroth currently lurking around, so maybe Skeledirge has a little bit more play against those. Lickitung is a little bit risky nowadays with the, Vigoroth as a safe swap, but I still feel like it's a very solid one. Here we're going to see that Cresselia actually beats a lot of Pokemon currently, especially with the moveset of Future Sight, which is kind of a change of what you're used to. Usually you went for something like the Moonblast, but now where Medicham is kind of nowhere to be seen, even though we have it on the team as well as a different option for this one, you kind of still go just for the Future Sight, because yeah, before Moonblast was better to hit the Medicham, but now like the Future Sight is going to be better for like neutral matchups, especially against those fire type Pokemon, which you're not able to hit before that. So Future Sight is going to be the better coverage move currently on your Cresselia. Galarian Stunfisk in the back. Honestly, kind of want to make a showcase directly for this Pokemon as well. I feel like this Pokemon has so much potential in the current meta, but let's move on to the next team here. Of course, if we're going to have a little bit of a team before as well, like I think Team 3, that was a little bit weak against Gligar, we're going to have to take a look at Gligar here as well. Gligar is still kind of underrated, I feel like. Like, it was, of course, top tier meta last season, but I feel like it's going to be even, like, it's not going to be way better than before, but it's going to be kind of back to former glory this season, because you saw as well a kind of shift recently in regionals, where a lot of people went for Gligar as their main flying type Pokemon again, just because you're going to be able to outspeed something like the Poliwrath, which is really important, and you're still going to be able to have coverage against something like a Lantern, making Gligar a very, very neutral pick, I would say. So we're going to have Vigoroth as a safe swap here. You can go for Lickitung as well. I feel like Vigoroth is just a little bit better maybe as a safe swap nowadays, but here Lantern in the back is, in my opinion, a little bit preferred over Cresselia, but Cresselia is just with the bulk also kind of nice to have, so would be also a decent option for you. But definitely I feel like Gligar going to be also becoming a little bit more common again for the upcoming 2 weeks. Team number 6, we're going to have here a double flyer lead here, whatever you want to use there, either the, I mean, I feel like Pelipper might be a little bit better, but it really depends, honestly. You could also even have a case here for the Mantine. Mantine is a little bit more bulky, has a little bit more coverage with Ice Beam, while Pelipper has 2 really good stab moves, which is kind of nice. Vigoroth, again, as a safe swap is really solid. You can also use something like a Sableye here, and Clodsire in the back also kind of works out fairly well. Here, what I would recommend here, if you go for Mantine, definitely go for Galarian Stunfisk in the back, because otherwise you're going to struggle a little bit too much against Iskamri. But here we're going to see as well, like, it's going to be a very solid line along the way, like maybe even, like, I feel like both teams that you see here on the left side, like the Pelipper, Vigoroth plus the Clodsire is really solid, but also you could just literally go for the team on the right side, so it's basically 2 teams here, with the Mantine, Sableye, as well as the Galarian Stunfisk, because I feel like this also is like really good coverage, like makes it a little bit easier against something like Cresselia, makes it a little bit easier against something like a Skarmory, with the backline at least here. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of 2 different teams here in one, but like I still feel it's a really, really solid one. So basically more 11 teams for today, but that is kind of nice, I guess. Next one. We're going to have here a team around Deoxys defense. This is going to be an interesting Pokemon as well. I feel like that this is going to be a little bit less common, actually. Like, the thing is, I felt like last time the Great League was available, like 2 weeks ago, we had like the Deoxys defense. It's like one of the cool meta breakers, because you were able to get to the Psycho Boost so fast. You basically fit like the wall that you had before with the Medicham, which Medicham was like kind of gone then. And now I feel like the meta kind of shifts towards a lot of Pokemon that you don't want to face too much with your Deoxys. One of them is going to be the Charger Bug that I talked about a little bit earlier, and so maybe even Clodsire might be the better pick for this one, because then you're going to have a better answer against those electric type Pokemon, and Lickitung Safe Swap might be a little bit better over Dugong as well. I feel like Dugong kinda, like, I don't know, Dion kind of lost a little bit of potential this season. I felt like it was way well last season. It's still a solid Pokemon, but maybe I have to take a look at Dion again as well, because I'm not too sure about this Pokemon. But otherwise, I would maybe even recommend you to go for Clodsire Lickitung for the reasons I just said. Azumarill in the back is most likely still a little bit better than Greninja. Greninja also lost a little bit of potential, but it's actually still very solid in the current meta. It's not that bad, to be fair. Team number 8. We're going to have a cheap one here. We're going to have a very cheap one here. We're going to have a Wishcast Greed and Talonflame team, which is basically the cheapest that you can build. Kind of want to take a look at this one as well, but most likely in reversed order, that you go for Talonflame lead, Greed and Sazor, Wishcast in the back. I feel like this might be even a little bit better. But for the sake of having the other Pokemon in here as well, I went for this order. You can actually completely flip it. It doesn't matter. You can also go for the Talonflame or Charizard lead and go for Vigoroth or the Greed and the Sazor and have the Lantern and the Wishcast in the back. Like, it's definitely reversible here, because like the Sazor of Vigoroth plus the Greedent are very, very decent just in general. Like, it's just a very neutral Sazor up there, and it's just a really good water and fire core in the back there, so should be really solid. Mantine can be a little bit of an issue for this team for sure. If you run something like the Lantern, of course, Mantine is not an issue at all anymore. Otherwise, it's going to be a fairly decent team here as well. Just literally had like the craziest voice crack. Hopefully I cut it out, maybe I didn't, who knows. I still feel like a little bit weird, but let's move on to team number 9, right? Moving on to the team number 9 here, we're going to have the most toxic team. I already made a video about this one, so if you want to see a little bit more about this team, definitely check this one out. It is just very, very annoying, but a very, very solid. We're going to have the Bastion in the lead. Going to have, yeah, basically coverage here in the back with the Victory Bell and the Wigglytuff. Yeah, which is going to be an interesting one, because you kind of want to play it kind of more, I don't know, fluid, depending on what you're going to encounter in lead. If it's going to be something like a fighting type, you might want to swap out into the Victory Bell, because the Wigglytuff is going to be better against it. If it's something like, I don't know, a ground type Pokemon, you want to go to your Wigglytuff instead of your Victory Bell, because the Victory Bell is going to be better against it, and the opponent is very likely to swap out. So you kind of want to always use as a sales swap, if you're going to lose a lead with a Bastion, then the Pokemon that's going to be worse against what you're facing in the lead. That's kind of how you want to play this team. It is insanely toxic. It's very, very strong. It is, yeah, like there are going to be Pokemon that completely beating this. For example, Galarian Stunfisk as well as Clodsire is going to be very, very strong for it. And so I feel like also that Galarian Stunfisk and Clodsire is going to get a little bit more play this season, or like the next 2 weeks anyway. So we most likely see a little bit of a decline of this team, but I still think it's a very, very solid one. Not everybody is going to run it. Basically, it's like what I always call this one is a calculated risk. So you know that you're going to lose certain matchups against certain Pokemon all the time without you being able to do anything. But you're okay with that, as long as you're going to be able to beat all the other matchups. And that's kind of what you can do here. If you take a look at this like graphic here, in the 2-shield scenario, you see already why this team is like so insanely wide. Like Victory Bell basically beats everything. Wigglytuff basically beats everything. Bastion is just a Bastion. But let's move on to team number 10. This is something that I was wrong about, I would say. I think I put Trevenant a little bit too low on the tier list for the Great League. And this is something that I definitely have to admit. I was wrong about Trevenant. I kind of want to, yeah, maybe make a video about Trevenant as well. Like, I have so much stuff to do actually for the next week. But Trevenant, I feel like I was wrong about it. Like, look already on the graphic. Like, this Pokemon just seems to be so insanely strong. And I kind of want to actually try out my old team, which I played before, which was the Trevenant lead, Sazor of the Medicham, and the Bastion in the back. A little bit tricky against like something like a Sableye, but it's definitely okay against everything else. Here we're going to have Lantern as a Sazor, which is most likely a little bit more solid play currently. But honestly, like, this is going to be, like, it's such a good team, and also, like, Trevenant is so underrated. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like and check out the videos on the screen. I see you then. Bye-bye.